part 3, and we're doing the Gantry. Yeah, alright, I gotta work on this one. Welcome back to part 3 of that Vz235 build, and in this episode, yes, we're gonna install the motion system, the Gantry, which I think is and will be the most exciting part of this entire build, simply because we are gonna use all those sexy and beautiful CNC parts, which are optional. You're not forced to buy them if you want to build this machine. You can still go with the printed parts, so it's really up to you. Nothing forces you to go there. I know I've had some comments about that. No, you don't have to. You can do it with the printed parts. That being said, you're probably also going to notice that little logo on that X tube is upside down throughout that video. I've corrected that. It's now mirrored, so it's still not 100% okay. It's a CAD design. We have fixed that. I just got a pre-release X tube, so don't worry about it. So yeah, let's not waste any more of our time, because this is gonna be a long video. There's a lot to go through, and I'm gonna try to give you as much detail as possible, and hopefully that's gonna help you guys, the people that want to build it or are in the process of building it. But you'll see it works super good. It's very easy to work on this printer, and it's very not that hard to do the motion system, even if it's a all-wheel drive system. This video is going to cover the all-wheel drive system with the CNC parts. If you're doing it with two-wheel drive, we also have instructions. I'm also going to link a video from another guy who did the build but with two motors, so he's got excellent video on how to do it, so you can compare how those two versions are done. But in this one, we're focusing on all-wheel drive system, and it's gonna be an epic build. I'm just very excited, and I'm happy to share this with you. So let's not waste any more of our time again and start by installing those linear rails. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's start, guys. Okay, we are going to start by mounting and installing those linear rails on the y-axis, and they are 300 millimeters long, MGM 12. These are, the brand is Sunshine, and the rails I've ordered so far from this seller they're pretty good. They don't have any backlash. They run smooth. They go smooth. They're pretty good quality, so that's why I've included that in the BOM. If you prefer to use high wind, of course you can't go wrong with high wind, genuine high wind. So it's up to you. But I found these rails are very decent for the price. They're really good. You just need to clean them and lube them properly, and then you're gonna have good results with it. Out of 8 rails I've ordered, they were all perfectly good. So they were cleaned up. They were cut to size because they were 400, so I had to cut them. Those are the rails that I had on hand, so I didn't buy any more. I used what I had to save money. So yeah, they've been cleaned and they've been oiled, and this is about what you want to see on a linear rail. You don't want to have something that is really too smooth. That would mean the tolerance or the preload on it is just too loose. So this is just smooth like butter, and not too smooth, so it stops on its own, but gravity is able to move. So these are ready to go. What we're gonna use is these alignment tools that you should have printed. If you follow the instructions, I have 2, so you're gonna need 2. You're gonna need that to mount on the frame, on the 2020 frame. And some people have asked me what I use to lube my linear rails. Well, I have this guy here, which is a Super Lube oiler, pen oiler. It's super good in a way that it allows you to directly reach the oiling port on the rail right here. If the camera can focus right here, so you can apply oil directly without removing the rail. So that is a good thing. It's a PTFE synthetic oil, so that is good. Some people might say it's bad. I don't know. I've always had good result with that. I've also used in the past this dry lube from W40. It's also a PTFE spray, so I think it's safe to mix them together. At least I've done it multiple times and never had issues with my rails. They've been running for years like that. And before I had this lube, I was using this guy here. This is super lube as well. Instead of being oil, this is grease. It also contains PTFE. So I was mixing those two because this is a bit too sticky or too, it's grease, so when you put grease on those linear rails, they tend to slow down and they have much more friction. So I was kind of liquefying it, if that is a word, with this. So, but now that I have this oil pan, this is my go-to oil now. So let's go ahead and mount them. I've pre-installed all the T-nuts and M3s. Those are 8mm M3s with T-nuts, so that's gonna be very easy to do. So let's go on the printer and mount them. Okay, so that is the back of the printer, and we're gonna use our alignment tools and the linear rail. And there's a distance that we need on from the back, and this is about 33mm. So we just need to first align all the T-nuts so they fit inside 2020. Install them like so, and we use these to secure them in place while we screw them. There you go. So now they are aligned and they should hold by themselves. If your tolerances are good on your printer, that should be good. Now what you need to do is about 33mm. If you're off by a bit, it's not that bad, but try to be as close as 33 as possible. 1 or 2mm off is not a big of a deal, but 33 should be perfect. And then all you need to do is to screw that in place, making sure everything is aligned. All right, let's do the other side. Next step, now we need to do the aluminum parts of the Gantry. So we're just gonna follow these instructions, and next step is to insert the nuts in those printed parts. That one's gonna be very easy to do. Then we can assemble the motor. Also very easy to do. Then we can mount the front motor mounts on the printer. We're gonna do both sides. And then we need to attach the motor plate to the motor. Very easy. I'm gonna leave this here just for reference. The powerful, speedy LDO motors, the 1.8 degree. CNC motor plate, built-in tensioner. Place them on the motor. And using two M3 6mm screws, you attach it to the motor. Repeat on both sides. Very simple step. All right, we are ready to assemble, put them on the printer. So just for your reference, these are the metal plates. And if you look at the bottom, they got slots to allow these two screws it goes like this. So these slots go on top of the screws. So that will allow the motor to be adjusted for tension like that. That's the purpose of the slots. And then the top part will obviously go on top. And there's two slots as well. And those two holes are going to be the one that will be grabbing the motor. So as simple as that. And then we have on both sides, we have the little guy that will go there. And that's about it. So let's go on the printer and mount all of these. We're also going to need the printed spacers and maybe install the pulleys as well. Okay, now we need to mount it to the frame. And for this step, it's gonna be, I wouldn't call it easy, but not too bad. You're gonna need, sorry, still left over from COVID. You're gonna need a M4 insert here on the Z extrusion. And this was previously inserted in the instructions when you built the frame. In my case, I didn't have to pre-insert it because instead of using the printed nut holder for the M4 and insert it in the frame in the slot here, I prefer to use these kind of M4 nuts. They are preloaded T-nuts and spring loaded. So there's a little spring in that little guy here, and it makes it easy. You can install them anytime you like. So you can push it on the frame like that, and sometimes you drop them. But yeah, you get the point. It's convenient, it's very easy to install, and you can do this without having, now I'm struggling because I don't want to get in front of the camera, and it just dropped in the bottom. But yeah, once you have it there, it's very easy, and it makes it convenient. And this is the same type of loaded nuts that I'm gonna use for the extrusion panels. So first thing first, this is the plate that you're gonna need. It's the lower plate, and you face it lower, and that's gonna be mounted here on the extrusion. You're gonna need your printed part that you did previously. So this one was gonna go right here. You're gonna need a M4 40 millimeter long. That's gonna go inside here, and it is going to attach to that nut right here, and simple as that. And you're also going to need M3 10 millimeters. So let me just get the tool. I'm gonna put this here, and we're gonna do this. Okay, so just place it on the plate like so, and use your 10 millimeter M3 screws. They need to be countersunk or countersink, or whatever you call that. Call them flathead sometimes. These are the type of screws that you need because there's a little chamfer there. One there, and one on the other side. There we go. And a 8 millimeter M4 countersunk. In my case, I'm going to use a 6 millimeter countersunk screw. 8 or 6 is good. So you have that plate top here, reverse it. On the bottom, you have a countersunk place for that nut, that bolt, and then you just insert the T-nut. There you go. So for now, the whole thing is gonna be held by two screws. This one, the 40 millimeter, and the little guy here. And I forgot, but before we can install it, you're gonna need also another bolt right here, a 10 millimeter bolt, and a T-nut. But this one is not gonna be tightened yet. So we're just gonna install the T-nut. Oh, come on, there you go. And then this is gonna be the lock when you adjust the tension on the motor. So here's the motor, and this plate's gonna go here on top, and let's just reverse it so that you can see. So this bolt goes right into here, and when you adjust the tension, this is gonna, please focus, thank you. And this is what you're gonna lock the motor in place. Well, this one and the top screws, but this is gonna be locking at the bottom. So we are ready to install the lower plate. I'm gonna put it here, like so, and you need to align that preloaded T-nut right here with this guy here. Then we can do the top plate. Top plate is easy. You need two 10mm, or it could be 12. 12 or 10, that's good enough, with T-nuts at the bottom, and two of 12 M3mm. And those 12mm gonna bolt right into that plastic part right here. Install the top plate like so. Make sure it's flush at the front. Done. All right, now is a good time to install your pulleys or your gear on the motor shaft. So for this, I like to use Mellows pulleys, and the reason why is they are very well machined. And I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this on the camera, but it's perfectly matching the gate belt. Come on, focus again. Anyway, it's very well machined and it matches the belt. That's what I like. And you install that on the motor shaft. And if you're wondering what would be the height that it needs to be, you can adjust that later. But roughly or precisely, it's gonna be 6.6mm from that motor plate mount. So about here. And you screw that right there. There you go. I think it moved a bit, but not by much. Yeah, it's still fine. All right, now we need, I think it's 35mm. It's gonna go right here, and we need to bolt them from the top. And we need those plastic spacers that gonna go in between. So let me get all the stuff that we need, and we can install and mount that motor. We got all the parts needed, and you're gonna need your printed spacer. And the one with the sharp edge 90-degree angle will go first on the further side, closer to the frame, and they have to be kind of tight. They are a bit hard to move, but movable. So that's about here, and this one goes on the side like so. All right. And then you can put in the motor. And this is where it's gonna grab the under M4 screw that you should have left loose for now. So it's gonna grab it when you move it like that. If you're having issues, you can simply remove that M4 and install it later. So now you can use 35mm M3 screws and use a washer with that, and you're going to install that from the top. And the trick here is it's a lot easier if you bring the motor all the way to the front, so that way it's easier to find a hole and put the screw in the hole. I mean, on the motor threads, M3 threads. So we
are, I think we're in. Yes, we are. And no need to fully tighten it just now. Leave it a bit loose so you can do the second one. There you go. Okay. Now, I think the easiest way from here is to move the motor all the way up to front. And if you left the screws loose enough, you can see that's how the motor tensioner will work. So for now, we're just gonna put it all the way up. So that's gonna give us the less tension so we can tension it later. So screw these two in and remember that M4 nut in the back. Now it's time to tighten it, but you could leave it as is for now and just tighten it later when you're done doing the belts, but just for the sake of it, I'm gonna tighten it now. There you go. Left side's done. Wash, rinse, repeat on the right side. Boom! 2 motors mounted in the front. So now, next step, I believe, would be to install the front little panels that will be here, because we're gonna need the panels to be able to install the tensioner. And to do that, we're gonna need also the tensioning nub. But first, let's install the panel on both sides and see what it looks like. For this part, you're gonna need your hinges. Yeah, those are hinges, but these are the plate that will go in front of the motor and will have the tensioning nub. So you're gonna need that. We're gonna use 10mm M4, 12 millimeters can also work with T-nuts. And we're gonna use, in the nub for the tensioner, we're gonna use these M4, they are, what's the name there? Lugs? Yeah, I think that's the name. So yeah, we're gonna use that. And M4 will be inserted in this little guy. So insert your M4 in there on both sides. There's another one right here. And it will need to be pressed in, like so. And then we need the panels. So let's use the panels. 2 panels on each side. I'm gonna pre-install this guy right here. And you can put your T-nuts right away. So, and on all the other small holes at the bottom here, they're gonna need M3s. You could go with M4 if you need, but 8mm, since this is 3, 8mm will be perfect. The holes are pre-cut for 3mm, so in this case, I'm gonna use 3mm with M3 T-nuts. This panel is ready to install. In the previous shot, I had this guy mounted wrong, so this is how it needs to go. And we're ready to mount it on the printer. And make sure it aligns with the hole on the motor mount, so that's going to be used for the tensioner. There you go. Awesome. We are now ready to install the tensioner. That part is very simple. We need that lug, M4 lug, and we need that nub adjuster. There's a M4 nut in there, and we're just gonna insert that in the nub, so it's gonna protect that nut from falling, and it looks better too. So first thing first, insert the lug and screw it. And if you like, you can put a bit of Loctite in there, but I found that it's not really necessary as long as you give it a bit of torque there. Where's my damn... Right here. Okay, and now you're ready to put in that nub. And that is your tensioner. So repeat on the other side. Boom, both sides are done. We have two motors installed, the acrylic panel is mounted, tensioner is mounted. There you go. So now you could, if you'd like, you could install those here at the bottom, like so. Those are the lower hinges, but you don't have to do it now. I mean, it can be done later when we're done with the enclosure panel. So now let's go on to the next step. Oh, by the way, I've installed those just to see, but using a M4 40mm long is what you're gonna need. And don't mind that Phillips screw there. It's gonna be, I just ran out of screws, so I've ordered some nice looking bolts for that. So let's go on to the next step now. For the next step, we're gonna do this. We're gonna mount the rear motors and the aluminum parts and everything else. So here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need 260 profile 2020, your aluminum lovely parts. You're gonna need shoulder bolts, a bunch of shoulder bolts, 20mm. You're gonna need your two LDO motors. You're gonna need 35, I think it's 35, 25 M3. 25 M3. You're gonna need your pulleys, your idlers. These are all tooted. Sorry. And you're gonna need also your motor gears. You're gonna need either M5 or M6 to bolt on the extrusion frame on the machine, depending on which part you use. Some are M5, some are M6. And you're gonna need a bunch of T-nuts, bunch of M4 10mm, and your printed spacers that you're gonna need. That's about it. Let's just do it. Okay, so let's just start by installing those motor plates onto the motors. And for that, we're gonna need M3 screws. 6mm M3 screws is good. So let's just do that. You're gonna need 6 because there's only 3 needed on each side. And you're gonna see why later, but trust me, it is enough to hold them. You are now looking at the back of the printer, and we're ready to install the two motors with the plates. For this, you're gonna need 6 M4 10mm with 6 T-nuts on each side, so 3 on each side. So a good suggestion, and I didn't do it, would be to install the motor after this step, because it's gonna be holding by only one, only one nut and bolt on each side for now, but it should hold itself. It's just gonna be better with only the plate and not the weight of the motor. But it should hold like that. Onto the other side. And now we can mount our 2020 profile, which should be 260 millimeters. And you mount it in the middle. Make sure everything is good. About here. That's perfect. Yep, let's bolt it there.
You are still looking at the back of the printer, and now we're going to install and mount our gears to the motor, if my focus can work. There you go. And it's very easy to know the height of each side. So this is left side from the back. If you're looking at front, it's the right side. This pulley, when you install it on this side, the good height is about the same height as that plate here. So this is exactly what we're gonna do, but you can adjust later on when you put on the belt and see and align everything, but that should be about it. On the other side, that's the same thing, except the pulley will go upside down, or this is upside down. It will go normal direction on the other side, and the height will be about the same level as the top plate that we're gonna install soon. So let's just do those pulleys. On the left side, which is the right side from the back, we're just gonna install the pulley, just insert it, but we're gonna leave it there, and we need the top plate to know exactly the height. So now let's do the rest. So now we're ready to do the idlers. So for this part, you're gonna need your top plate, obviously, your idler, one toothed and one smooth. I don't have a smooth one with me, so I'm gonna use 695 bearings, 2 of them. On this side, it doesn't really matter if they're a bit bigger than a normal idler, because they're gonna match on both sides, so there's not gonna be any misalignment. So that is good for me. So the easiest way to do this, I found, is to simply mount everything to the top plate, and once everything is there, you simply install that on top. So for this step, you're gonna need your printed spacers. Let me just grab all of them. To here, and there's one more here. Okay, so you're gonna need your printed spacers. You're gonna need 2 shoulder bolts, M4 shoulder bolts, 20 millimeter. They are Mizumi shoulder bolts. They are fitting really good inside the idler because they're 4.96 millimeter. So they are really good at precision. And you're gonna need a 30 millimeter M3 and 2 M4 with their T-nuts to go here. Well, 3 in fact. So 2 here and 1 here. So 3. So let's just pre-assemble that, and if you printed your parts according to the STL and your printer is accurate, it should hold by itself. So that's how we designed it to be tight so they can easily fit in there. So install your M3 30, and this is going to be the this spacer, and it should hold itself like that. Next, oh, I dropped the spacer. Next is to put your shoulder bolt. So if you, I dropped it again. Dang it. Sorry guys. Okay, so put your shoulder bolts. This one's gonna go like so. So put shoulder bolts right here. There you go. And on the other side, this part gonna go here, so it needs to match the height of that pulley. So install the bigger spacer first. Let me sure I don't drop them here. I'm just gonna put them on the table.
So there you go. This one should also be really tight. So it should hold itself like that. And on my side, I will use 695 bearing with a washer in between. So that way 6mm belt will match. And then you finish that side with that tiny spacer. And on my side, it's tight, so I really have to kind of screw it on like so. Okay, and then you do your second shoulder bolt. All right, and this is just going to be the opposite. So the idler will go at the lower part. So you first need this spacer. This is the tiny one. It should fit also really tight on the shoulder bolt. Oh, really tight in my case. So there you go. But since they are tight, everything holds. So that makes it a lot easier to assemble. Small spacer, then you need your 2 to the idler. Let's put that here, and then your big spacer. Where is that thing? Right here. Your spacer, like so. And then you are ready to assemble. Well, there's one last thing. Put all the M4 10mm with the T-nuts and you're ready to assemble. Let's just do that real quick. So now everything, just to make sure I'm not gonna drop anything, but everything should hold itself and be ready to install. So we are going to put that on top of it. Make sure your T-nuts are aligned. That should go very easily here. And you want to start by screwing these shoulder bolts. Making sure they are actually in the threaded hole. And they are. And it will help if you use the right tool. Okay. And then the T-nuts. Making sure it's aligned properly with both sides. There you go. Once you're done, you can verify that bearings and idler are running smooth. If you tighten these a bit too far, then they might be a bit over tightened. So just make sure you release tension a bit. All right, that one's good. So everything's good. We're gonna do the other side. Okay, both sides are done. Sorry, this looks so good. I'm so happy. Looks amazing. All motors. There's 4 motors. Okay, let's do the final step. Remember that pulley or gear that we didn't tighten yet? So now is a good time to do it.
very easy. Just bring it and align it with your smooth idler. In my case, they are bearings. So just bring it here. Just be careful not to make it touch the top plate because it's gonna give you too much friction, unnecessary friction. So just move it to the top, lower it down a bit, make sure it's aligned properly with the smooth idler, and you're good to go. And the next step will be the X-axis.
My apologies guys, sorry when I did this. You can see they're mounted good now. This is from the back of the printer. I had them wrong. So everything has been reverted upside down. Motor, pulley, idlers. So now they're good. This is the left side, this is the right side. As you can see, now they are properly installed. Again, sorry about that. For the X-axis, it's very easy to do. In this case, I've already pre-assembled everything, so everything is mounted and ready to go. I'm gonna dismantle everything just so you can see all the steps. But you have the choice here. You could use the carbon fiber X tube, you could use the normal 2020 extrusion profile, or you could use this 60 aluminum profile that's been machined, CNC machined. And the good thing about it is that it offers you two options. You could install a MGM9 rail, and those all the screws are pre-tapped for M3 nuts. So you could mount a MGM9 directly on this side, or you could do it like me and use this tiny MGM7 ultra light rail. And this rail, I'm very impressed with it. It doesn't have any backlash, there's no play, it's super good. It feels really good. It's probably one of my best rail I have here. And it's the Chinese one I got on AliExpress. I can't remember the vendor, but I'll try to find it again. But I think it's a guess. You never know if you have a good one or a bad one. I had to clean it all, re-lube it, and it was like that. And there's no play, so it's really good. So let's just undo everything, and we're gonna start by installing the XY joiner. I call that the Y gantry. For this, we're gonna need spacers. They go in the back. It's printed spacers, and the reason why we do printed spacers is to give a bit of a chance for misalignment. If everything was all metal, it would be very stiff and very tight, and would make things a lot more complicated. And also it helps, I think, for the vibrations. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a guess. I think it's a good guess. So this helps. So let's start by dismantling all this, and once it's done, we're gonna mount it on the printer. All right, everything is disassembled and ready to install. Just want to show you what I've done here on this rail. Since this is a MGM7, we need a little spacer here to mount on that MGM7 because there's 2mm difference between MGM7 and MGM9 in terms of height, and to fit that print head we need that spacer. You're gonna need M2, tiny screws, M2 countersunk screw to fit in there to bolt to the sliding block, the adapter. And same thing for that MGM7 rails. They are all M2 screws, tiny screws, but they look like they're holding on pretty good. So that is it. I've also pre-glued spacers on both ends because you need spacers simply because that tube is 20mm and those Y gantry are 21mm between here and here. Why 21? Simply because at first we used carbon fiber tubes and they were not always up to the specs. I got 20.2, 20.5, even got 20.9. So we did 20.1 to compensate for those. So we just need to print a spacer according to the dimensions of the carbon fiber tube that you get. But this is always going to be 20. It's CNC made, so it's always reliable. That's why I've picked up that option. Now, for the Y gantry, I'm gonna let you know what I've done here. I've used tiny M3 screws. They are 4mm screws, and I've used these guys here. They are carbon fiber rods, 5mm. They are 2.5mm ID. So I've used a 764 drill bit and kind of rim the hole or get the bore bigger, so that way a M3 screw can screw directly into that tube and it will be very tight. I've done a lot of tests and you don't need to tap them. It's gonna be auto tapping and it screws very tight, so you just need to cut them to size. They should be 25mm. They will fit directly in that hole here, because that hole is 5.2 or 5.3. Anyway, there's 25mm here. Then you can use a tiny M3 screw, and that's going to be a lot lighter than titanium. And then you install your printed spacers, one here at the bottom, one here at the top. Same thing on both sides. On the all-wheel drive, both idlers on the front will be smooth and dented or toothed on the back. So we are ready to attach that to the frame. And for this, again, we're gonna need these spacers. Now we just gotta be careful. On this side, these spacers, they are not symmetrical. There's a side that has this cutout for the belt. So this is where you gotta be careful, just to make sure it doesn't rub. If you put it the wrong way, the belt will rub against this side. So let's just install that on the printer and I'll be able to show you. All right, we are ready to put them on the frame, on the printer, and for this, a quick suggestion and a quick tip that I've done on this one is instead of using socket head, I'm using button head. The advantage of using button head is the head is smaller, so that way instead of using 12mm like the bum is saying, I'm going to use 12mm. That's going to give more threads that will go in the MGM slider. So very easy. You do this before you put that on a printer, and you insert like so. It's a lot easier with this type of tool. So you just put it in, and this is where these type of screws will be better because the head is smaller. So you just screw it a bit like that and it will eventually just go in their hole. So repeat that for the 4 screws. All right, and then you can put the spacer in the back. So on the left side, the spacer will be with the pulleys upward. So you need to use, in this, you see they're not symmetrical. So this side has a cutout on both sides. So this is the side we're gonna put here. Here you go. Okay, and it's ready to go on the printer. So as you can see with the 12mm, there's a bit more threads that will hold that MGM rail. So we're gonna do the same thing on both sides and install them. And now you're looking at the left side. This is the front, this is the back. So we can install this guy right here. Very simple step. We'll do the other side now, the right side. The next step is to mount our cross member, and that's called the X-tube or whatever you call that. In my case, I call it a cross member. And for this, it's gonna be super easy. Okay, focus is good. So I'm gonna go in the back. So in order to do this, I have pre-glued these spacers, and the easiest way is you do this at an angle. So you insert your first one like so, and then the other side at an angle like that. And then you can slowly bring it all the way back to the printer, and you align the holes on both sides. Might be a little hard to move, but it should move. Okay, so there you go. The easiest way to align it for a 90-degree angle, sorry camera, is to bring it in the back and make it touch this guy here. And that way you're gonna be parallel. Now you can measure with a caliper to make sure that you're about the same distance on both sides. That's another option. And you're gonna use 30mm screws that I've pre-applied a bit of Gorilla Glue on the end. It acts like as a Loctite, but it's less, or it's weaker than Loctite. And I think I prefer that because it's easier to remove after, and it holds just fine. So 2 M3 on this side. On the left side here, you're gonna need your printed X stopper with the M3s. So same thing, install them in the holes. And then you're ready to screw them with the M3s, the nuts. There you go. It should slide freely now. So we are almost done. Next step would be to put on that print head on this side. So let me just get the tools and we're gonna do this part. So the print head should come pre-assembled like that. This is what you get in the package. When you receive it, first step is to install this guy because it's going to be impossible to install it. This is the cable holder and the mount for the fan and the cooling system in the back. So you install them with 2 M3 screws, and everything is in the instructions on the website. So go get the instructions on GitHub, but do them first. That would be first. So now you're ready to mount the top plate on the MGM9, or in my case MGM7. And to do this, on my side I'm using M3s. They are 4mm tiny screws, but on your side it's going to be, if you use MGM9, it's going to be 6mm screws. And then you can install the rest of the print head, and very easy. 4 M3 6mm. I don't think you need any Loctite there, at least I never had those screws coming loose. You can put them if you'd like. I'm hesitant to do this because I don't want to screw up that print head. Oops. So on my side, I don't use Loctite there. Good. That looks awesome. So next step is the belts, and we're gonna do gate belts. And for this one, I'm not gonna film it. I already have a video on how to attach the belts to the print head and how to attach it to the rest of the printer. This is going to be exactly the same. The only thing different is the belt path will be a bit different since we're using all-wheel drive. But here is the belt path I'm gonna put right here. So follow these. It's gonna be very simple, and since we have not installed the back panel yet, it's gonna be easy from the back with a little screwdriver to guide the belt in every little cavities here. You can help yourself that way, and it shouldn't be hard. So let's just do this, and I'll come back later. And then the last step is install the back plate, the back panel. So if you're wondering if it's strong enough in the back, it is as it is right now, but the back panel will also screw on to this 2020 and in the entire frame, and will jam everything together. So everything's gonna be super strong. Don't worry, it's all good. All right, I thought I would skip this and not film this step, but it's very different than the VZ330, and the video I have is for the VZ330. Even though this is the same principle and same print head, it's gonna be way different because the way that this system works, the belt's gonna route differently. So you have the smooth idler here, so it's just gonna be different. So I did it once and it was not easy, but I've learned how to do it, and I'm gonna show you a couple tips on how to save you from a headache, because it's not easy, but at the same time it's not hard with the tips that I'm gonna show you. So the first thing first is to attach the front of the print head. But before we do this, the first thing we need to do is to wrap around the belt in the front motor. And the easiest way to do it, because if you start from here and go there, and wrap it around there, you're gonna have an issue. The easiest way to go here, and we've made the part here with a little round that's gonna guide the belt all the way through. So you start with that, and I'm gonna move the camera with a better angle, so that way you can see it. But first, before we do this, you're also gonna need, for this, you're gonna need a little piece of filament that's gonna be used to hold the belt. And you're gonna need your printed belt clips. I have 2 belt clips, but I'm gonna use 4. I saw this, a guy on my group did that, and I found the idea was good. So I'm gonna use 4 belt clips, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And we're gonna start right now, and I'm gonna move the camera to the front motor. We're gonna do this part first. So we start by giving a little bit of shape on the belt, because it's gonna make it a lot easier to guide through that motor hole. So pinch it with your fingers like so, with the tooth on the inside, the tooth on the inside. So try to give it a bit, as much as you can, and then you simply go from the front, and you're gonna see that it's gonna come out on this opening here, because we've made the inside round just for that purpose. And there you go. So once you have it, then you do it again. You just move it in the hole like so, and then your belt is all wrapped around that pulley. So now we're gonna switch and do, let me move the camera. So this is the left of the printer that you're looking at right now. And you can wrap it around the Y like so, the Y gantry. And now you're ready to attach it to the print head. All right, we're ready to attach it to the print head on the left side from that little slot here. First thing first, you need to insert your belt clip. We're gonna put it in like so, and we're gonna put, focus, thank you. Put it in the slot, and you are going to wrap the belt around itself, and you don't need a lot. You probably need half an inch. So you pinch it on itself, and then you pull. And what's gonna do, it's gonna create a loop. I don't know if I can zoom in more. From here, you see that loop there, and then this is a little part of your filament that you're gonna insert into that belt and you're gonna pull. And from here, you can pull really hard. You can pull very, very hard until it snaps into place. And it's not gonna go anywhere else. Let me unzoom a bit. There you go. And now you can, as a second safety, you can put in your belt clips, and that's gonna tie both sides together. That's a double. It's a little tricky, I can't move in front of the camera, but it is easy. Normally, screw that, I'll just move the camera, but you get the point. You put your belt clips in front there. And then we're gonna do the rear motor, which should be also easy. All right, we got that belt clip installed. We are wrapping around the Y gantry and wrapping around the front motor. So we're coming out the front motor and we're just gonna push the belt right behind that Y gantry. That part should be very easy. And then we're gonna do a rear motor. Since we don't have the rear panels here, it's gonna be very easy to access and route the belts from behind. So let's go from behind and I'm gonna show you there. All right, you're still looking from the front of the printer. I thought the angle was better for this part. So just wrap it here in the back of that toothed idler. And you wanna go in front of that motor and simply, just don't want to block the angle from the camera, but simply insert it and have it coming out on the other side, like so, all the way. There you go. All right, and on the left side now, now looking from the back, so this is the back left, or the right side when you're looking from the front. This part is also very easy. Just bring the belt inside, wrap it around that top idler, then onto the motor. Very easy. You can wrap it in front first. Oh, that was my belt clip. No worries. Right, then around the motor shaft or the motor pulley. All right, and now to the Y gantry or the XY joiner, depending on how you name that. And for the next step, we are ready to attach it to the printhead. So we are ready to attach it to the printhead. This part is going to be a bit different than the Vz330, simply because the way the idlers and pulleys are oriented. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, on the Vz330, the belt will come in the back from the smooth side. On this one, it comes with from the toothed side. So it's different, and we didn't want to have two different type of printhead, aluminum printhead on the two printers. So we had to find a solution, and we have two solutions to propose. I'm going to give you two, and one that is the preferred one, but they both work. So I'll show that to you. So first one is to use, well, both solutions will use the slots, obviously the slots that were made to attach the belt. And the first one, and this is my preferred one, is going to use these type of belt clips, same type that we use in the front. They're just normal ones, and you pre-install them. Then you put in the belt inside the slot, and you make it go all the way across that back plate. And you make sure that all idlers, the belt is going inside all the idlers properly. This one's good, this is good. Yep, everything's good. So you apply some pre-tension just to remove any slope. Oh, I'm missing one here. It's not properly seated. Okay, now it is. So it's too loose, just give it a bit more. It doesn't need to be
a lot because we have a lot of adjustment in the front for that, so don't worry. And now you just wrap it around like so, and you bring your clip like that, and that side is done. Now, the other way around, well, let me just mention that if you do it this way, you need about 150 millimeter, 150 centimeter of belt. If you do it the other way, that I'm gonna show you, you need 140. On the other side, you need 140. The other side is easy because, well, I'll show you that. So now let just me show you the other way that you can mount the belt. And this method will require 140 millimeter. And you can cut after that to the correct length, but 140 is just enough to do it. Okay, so the other method is using these type of clips. They come in two parts. I'll try to get the focus on it. Okay, so this is the first part, and it will clamp, it will allow you to basically clamp the belt on the smooth side instead of using the teeth. So it will clamp on it like so. Well, first of all, you install that part, and then you wrap it around here. I'm not gonna do it close on the print head, but you wrap it in the slot like so. Well, I can do it. Well, just to show you, I'll do it here because it's gonna get a better angle. Then you put the belt together and you insert that here. Hold on. It's a little tricky, but with enough patience, it works just fine. Like so. All right. So it holds the belt like that, or you can see on the other side, and then this will clip and you'll hear that click. You just slide it in. Click, and that will hold it very tight on here. Oops, focus, thank you. So I found that using this, it will be a little bit, just a tiny bit misaligned by probably half a millimeter to a millimeter, which is not bad. I don't think it's gonna cause any issue, but it works. I mean, on my VZ330, I have the prototype version of the printhead, and I'm misaligned by more than that, and I never had an issue, basically. So anyway, I'm not gonna use this technique. You could. I'm gonna put those files on GitHub as well, but on my side, I think I prefer the other method. I'm just gonna remove this, all right? And we're gonna use the basic clip and simply do it that way. So maybe some people will prefer not to wrap the belt around the printhead because of the look, but don't worry, there's going to be a lot of parts in the back and you won't be able to see that. So wrap it around. So this way again, 150 centimeters of belt. If you do it the other way, 140. On the other side, it's gonna be 140. So that's about good. Everything's in the pulleys and the idlers. We're ready to install that belt clip. Just snap into place. I try to leave that amount of belt, but it's a little bit. You could cut another couple teats just to make sure that it doesn't catch in the pulley when it goes all the way. So for now, we're just gonna leave it like that. Another thing you can do, leave that loose, but with the front tensioner, give it more tension, bring it forward, so that way you're gonna use the same belt length, but your clip's gonna be arriving about here. And you're still gonna have plenty of travel to do the tensioning. Now on the other side, let me bring up another belt. Same thing will apply on this one. It's just easier because belt's gonna come up this way with the teeth in front, and you just do the same thing. Except you insert it here, use a little screwdriver. Camera's in front, but I'll try to do it. Like so. And then you come with your clip and you pinch it right here. Or you could do it the other way. You could use this way and use the clips with the two parts that will slide in on top, and the other part will come and clip on it and lock everything in place. So it's up to you, but I highly recommend this method, even though it's a bit uglier because the belt goes in front of that sexy backplate. But again, you're not gonna see that anyway. There's gonna be a lot of stuff in front of it, so it's not a big deal. There's gonna be the dancing guy, the drunk dancing guy, anyway, that will be in front of it, plus the fans or the CPAP and everything will be there, so it's not a worry on my side. So we're ready to do this, the second belt, and once you're used to this, I've done it a couple times just to make sure it works good. So it takes about 5 minutes at a maximum when you know what you're doing. So I'm gonna do the second belt, and we're gonna be ready for the next step, which is installing the back plate. Now we are ready to apply tension, so very simple stuff. Loosen those two M3 screws on top of each motor mount, and don't forget that M4 bolt as well under here and under here. Loosen that one, and then you're ready to tighten. And what I suggest for this step is that you bring everything in the back. That way you have a guide in the back to see if you're skewing or raking, or I don't know the good word for that, but if you're not gonna do the 90-degree or the squareness of of the gantry, for lack of better words. So make sure that they both touch on the frame, I mean the rear motor mounts, and then you can adjust tension accordingly. If a side, there you go, a bit more. This is going to be just pre-tensioning, we're not going to tune it yet. And then you can wiggle it a bit. That's good, we're still perfectly square. We can give it a bit more. Just by the feeling, you'll know what tension is right. That comes with experience, but I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what frequency to use yet. Obviously frequency was going to be higher than what I set on the Vz330 because we have a shorter path of the belt. So right now it's probably good to start printing and do some resonance measurement and fine-tune later. As soon as I find the perfect settings for me, I can publish that and tell you what I do and how I tune it. But just make sure they're about the same. You can use a spectrum analyzer. It's a kind of a utility with your phone that's going to be listening to the sound of the belt and making sure they're both on the same frequency, so you know both sides are tension exactly the same. Now that you're done, tighten those two M3 screws on the top. That's going to lock the motor into place, and then you can tighten the bottom M4 and the bottom M4 on both sides, and motors won't move. They'll be set and you're ready to go. Next step, install that bottom plate. Rear plate. Back plate, super easy. Maybe you're not gonna have this back plate from F3D. I'm not too sure if you can ship them anymore because we have a lot of issues with the shippers, the brokers, DHL, FedEx. They seem to be dropping the package directly from the airplane. they were broken at arrival and kind of stuff like that. So we're gonna have to see, but you can cut them with your local providers of aluminum. The files are on GitHub, the DFX file or whatever the file name is. They're ready. Everything's gonna be there, the holes that needs to be cut and CNC. So you can do this or you can do it yourself. It's really up to you. So you're gonna need M14 nuts. I've pre-installed them. It's gonna be 8mm on every of them except those two, which are gonna be for your electrical connections to the wall, your 120 volt socket, or depending on your country, this might be different. We only have this for United States, Canada. If you're in Europe, then you might have to find another one, or we may be adding it a bit later. There's still a lot of stuff to add to this printer. So for now, we only have this model, but you can find a lot of other models on the web if you don't want to design one, or if you don't want to wait for us to design one. So M4 8mm, M4 10mm, because we have that extra plastic part to cover, and we simply install it. And those two extra holes at the top here are for frame brace. I'm gonna brace it to the concrete wall here, so you can leave them if you don't want to use them. You can also screw some screws there, and that's about it for the rest. I'm gonna mount it, but I know I'm gonna have to remove it a bit later because I'm still unsure exactly how I want to do the electronics, where I want to place everything. I'm gonna have to think about it. I have two power supply to install, the motherboard, some electronic stuff, MOSFETs, SSR. So yeah, I'm still not sure. I need also to find a place for my CPAP fan, the water cooling kit, if I decide to do the water cooling stuff. So it's a tiny plate for this, to mount all this. So I don't know yet what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to think about it. Another solution that I've seen the people doing higher feet at the bottom to raise it and put electronics at the bottom. I might think about it as well. Maybe put the two power supplies. So that's gonna save a lot of space having the two power supplies at the bottom, but I don't know. So just for now, just to show you, because you might say, well, this might not be super strong, but trust me, it is strong as it is. It's very rigid, but adding this 3mm backplate will jam everything together and will screw on. All these three ones here are gonna screw on to this profile and it's gonna be super strong. So let's just do this. And also I have deburring all those just to make sure it won't cut the wires. So there's nothing sharp, but there's also on GitHub as well TPU grommet that you can print to protect the wires, but in my case I think it's perfectly fine, nothing sharp there, and adding grommet will shrink the hole, have less space for wires. For now, I'm just leave it like that. I may do the grommet later, I'll see. For now, anyway, all my wires gonna be protected with that kind of braided sleeve, so it's not very an issue for me. So let's just install that real quick to give us a better look at the whole setup. And we are done with the motion system and the gantry. And look at that thing. Oh my goodness. Vz is so happy right now. Everything looks awesome. I mean, look at that. All right, yeah, I might be a little biased or biased. I don't know how to say that. I might not be objective because this is my printer, and yeah, it's like your own kid. They're always perfect to your own eyes, but yeah, I'm very, very happy. Everything fits perfectly. I didn't have any issues. Everything turned out the way it was supposed to do. So that makes me very happy. And it moves good. Everything's good. It looks epic. Of course, there's a bit more restriction or force to move the printhead because you are fighting against not 2 but 4 different motors, so that's expected, but it moves good. I'm happy with that. Everything is good. Next part will be electronics, and then all the panels on the printer. I'm not too sure I want to film everything for the electronics because that will be very time consuming. And it will, I don't know, the wiring diagram is there, is just doing wires. That's super simple. I think what I'm gonna do is just do it, and then once it's done, I'll do another video showing how I've done it and where I've passed the wires, what I've decided to choose for electronics and everything. That might be more useful that way. But the wiring diagram is already on GitHub. So I'm just gonna do exactly what is there, and that's gonna be about it. So we're done for this part. Just gonna film a bit of that beauty. I'm excited. I've been dreaming about this printer for a bit, and now it's here in my print room, and I'm very, very happy. It's just good. So thank you for watching this one. It was a long one, probably boring for most people, except the one that will be building this printer. But I guess people that will be watching this video is because they're gonna build the printer, or they're just interested in knowing how the printer works, how it's assembled. So hopefully that was useful for you guys. Hopefully more people will build it and share the same feeling that I have right now of being proud. Can I say that? I'm proud of what I built. Yeah, and I'm more than proud. I'm very happy. I'm that kind of weird guy that this is happiness right in front of me. This is what it does when you're passionate about something. So I hope that someone will have that same feeling. If you're building it, go ahead. Go and join us on Discord, Facebook. I'm always there to help people. There's other people helping people. The community is growing, and we have a lot of good folks and very kind people in that community, which makes it awesome. So what else? I think we're done for now. Like that button, dislike that. If you dislike that video, that's all good. You can't please everybody. So on this, I think I'm gonna go to bed and just dream about when that printer is gonna be working. But it's gonna be soon. There's not a lot of work left to do. Panel is gonna be easy. The rest is easy, but it's probably the longest part to do, the wiring. And the part that I hate the most and the part where I suck the most. But I'm gonna try and be extremely careful and make it look as good as possible. I might also be working on a back panel. I don't know, it might be on a future, maybe not now, but anyway. On this, folks, thanks again. I really appreciate all the love that I've received recently and throughout this crazy adventure. I appreciate it. I love you too. I love you all. Thanks again. Have a good one, and don't forget, rum. You need rum to build this machine. You need lots of it. Well, not lots of it, just a couple shots every once in a while. Take a break. Don't get it too hard on yourself. Don't do like me and don't sleep for a couple nights. You're gonna get sick. So stay healthy and have a good one. See you on the next one. Bye.